If you're looking for a tale filled with impossible rescues, daring space battles, and a love that spans light years, then you've come to the right place. Imagine a legendary human warship appearing out of nowhere to save an alien cruiser from deadly marauders, only to spark an alliance that will reshape the entire galaxy. In this story, you'll witness epic confrontations, heartfelt bonds, and the stirring hope that emerges when myth collides with reality. Curious about how these two civilizations, once strangers, unite against a relentless enemy, or how a fateful radar detection changes not just one life, but the course of galactic history. Make sure to listen through to the very end to discover it all. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more captivating stories packed with action, romance, and the boundless wonder of deep space. Lieutenant Aloran Sorel fixed her gaze on the fluctuating star map hovering above the main console of the Sovereign Ray, a mid-sized cruiser affiliated with the Stellar Unity Corps. Every vibration of the beleaguered vessel's hull resonated through her feet as its overextended engines fought to sustain a pace far beyond their design limits. Her pale lilac hair, cropped close in a practical style, brushed against the collar of her uniform as she leaned in, struggling to decipher what her instruments were trying to tell her. A new set of readings had just appeared, a blip on the edges of their scanning range. Ordinarily, she would have dismissed anomalies as sensor ghosts or cosmic interference, but given their current crisis, she had to consider any possibility, no matter how far-fetched. "Status, Lieutenant," came the sharp command from Commander Thalron Vraxis, who stood near the central hollow table, his posture reflecting the martial grace of his reptilian ancestry. A series of bone-like ridges ran along his skull and down his neck, shifting in color from blue to orange with each mounting surge of tension. Despite his stoicism, Aloran could sense the fear simmering beneath his controlled demeanor. Fear for the crew, fear for the mission, fear that the predatory fleet nipping at their heels would soon close the gap. She swallowed hard. "Sir, the marauder pursuers remain on our tail, closing in steadily. We've counted 7 destroyers and at least 4 heavy assault ships. Our engines are holding at 120% capacity, but that won't last forever." A faint hum underscored her words, the sublight thrusters reaching a pitch that told her they were nearly at the red line. A low hiss, Thalron's equivalent of a curse, escaped through the commander's clenched teeth. They had been fleeing since the ambush near the Dranora Nebula, a location infamous for concealing pirate and raider activity. Though the Sovereign Ray was well armed for a cruiser of its class, the Marauders were a relentless force. Legends circulated about how they pillaged entire planetary systems, enslaving populations and strip mining worlds for resources. If they caught up, there would be no parley. "Push the engines as far as you dare," Thorund ordered. "We cannot allow these vermin to overtake us. If the thrusters burn out, then so be it." "Yes, Commander." Aloran's four-fingered hands danced over the console, diverting auxiliary power to the main drive. The lights across the bridge dimmed slightly as non-essential systems powered down, each drawing minimal resources so every joule could feed into the engines. A second beep jolted her attention. She stared at the sensor readouts in confusion. A contact was approaching from an entirely unanticipated vector, heading directly toward the pursuing marauders. Aloran frowned, running the data through multiple filters to confirm it wasn't some malfunction. The speed registers looked impossible, nearly double what the Sovereign Ray could achieve, even at its dangerous overdrive threshold. "Commander Thalron," she called, her voice tight with both hope and incredulity. "I'm picking up an unidentified ship inbound at extraordinary velocity. Its hull composition, titanium alloys and carbon-based plating, doesn't match any contemporary designs we know. It looks antiquated, almost as if it were from centuries past." Thalron moved to stand beside her, his slit pupil eyes widening. "That can't be correct. Those materials haven't been common in warship construction for ages. Are you certain the readings are accurate?" Ellerin double-checked, her breath caught in her throat. "No error, sir. The scans are conclusive." Commander Thalron bent closer to the console, his ridges momentarily dulling to a muted green, a sign of deep contemplation for his species. He scrutinized the glowing data streams with a mixture of amazement and doubt. If this new vessel isn't part of the Marauders' ranks, then who are they? The whole signature is like nothing in our modern archives. Lauren felt a jolt of anticipation surge through her body. Possibility 1, they're hostile to both of us, perhaps a hidden faction. Possibility 2, they're an ancient design that somehow survived. Our research suggests that centuries ago, certain species vanished into uncharted regions, leaving only fragments of technology behind. She paused, pressing her lips together. I'm not seeing any recognized transponder codes, which means no formal identification from any known ally or neutral party. Thalron's gaze lingered on the star map, where the unidentified ship now appeared as a blazing red icon, indicating an unverified threat level. Run a deeper scan. Even if they belong to a lost civilization, they might be advanced in ways we don't understand. We need every edge we can get against the Marauders right now. Lauren initiated a full-spectrum sweep, scanning for heat signatures, electromagnetic fields, and any exotic energy patterns. The results produced bizarre anomalies, including a power core that dwarfed anything installed on comparable vessels. Before she could interpret the data, the Marauder fleet opened fire, emerald and crimson beams streaking across the void toward the Sovereign Ray. The entire cruiser shuddered as the shielding took a direct hit, alarms wailing in protest. Damage to Deck 7, but outer plating still intact, reported an ensign from engineering. Shields at 70%. Thalron extended a clawed finger toward the tactical officer. Return fire. Focus on the lead Marauder destroyer. Aim to slow their advance, then break off. We can't afford an extended firefight. Aloran knew they were perilously short on time. The next Marauder barrage could tear through their weakened defenses. She snapped her attention to the mysterious red icon on her screen. Commander, the unknown ship is doing something. It's accelerating beyond what I considered even feasible. My readouts are showing a jump in energy emissions, some type of advanced weapon systems going active. Almost on cue, the holodisplay erupted with flickering bursts of light. Through the viewport, Ellerin watched as lances of pale white energy cut across the darkness, striking the Marauder ships with surgical precision. The Marauders, caught by surprise, scrambled to return fire, but a shimmering field around the unidentified vessel absorbed their retaliatory blasts effortlessly. A stunned silence fell across the bridge. Thalron blinked multiple times, a sign of near disbelief for him. They're targeting the Marauders, not us, he muttered softly. In a matter of moments, 2 enemy destroyers disintegrated under the barrage, each vanishing in a burst of molten metal fragments and atmosphere swirling away into vacuum. Aloran exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Part of her wanted to cheer. Another part was gripped by confusion and an undercurrent of fear. Who commanded that mysterious craft? Why intervene in a battle that didn't concern them unless it did? More Marauder vessels turned to confront this new threat. Pulses of blazing plasma pummeled the stranger's shields, but the unidentified craft remained unscathed. As the seconds passed, it became clear that this ancient-looking ship wielded technology so advanced that it might as well have come from legends. Finally, as the Marauders started to break formation, the holodisplay beeped again. An incoming transmission from the unknown ship flashed at Aloran's station. "Commander," she called out, unable to keep the tremor from her voice. "They're hailing us." Thalron's ridges glowed a wary yellow. "Patch them through. I'd like to meet the people who can make the Marauders run." Ellerin keyed in the command to accept the hail, and a moment later the main view screen shimmered, revealing a tall figure in an armored uniform. He was unmistakably human, with sun-bronzed skin and dark, close-cropped hair. A faint scar creased one eyebrow, and the intensity in his hazel eyes made Aloran's heart pound. Whether from caution or something else, she couldn't say. Humanity was a name wrapped in myth. Legends spoke of humans as either unstoppable warriors or cunning explorers who had vanished centuries ago. "This is Captain Nathan Cross of the Star Hunter, representing the Lost Terran Confederation," the man announced. His tone held a smooth confidence, as though taking on a Marauder fleet single-handedly was just another day's work. "We detected your distress and decided to lend a hand. Hope we didn't intrude." Thalron recovered from his initial shock with admirable speed. "Commander Thalron Vraxis of the Stellar Unity Corps cruiser, Sovereign Ray. We appreciate the assistance, Captain Cross. Marauders have been an escalating menace in this sector. His eyes flicked over to Aloran, whose expression must have echoed his awe. But we had no idea your people were still around. A faint grin crossed the human's face. We prefer discreet to absent. Though his words carried a playful edge, his posture remained disciplined, shoulders squared. Commander, if you have wounded or damage you can't handle, I'd be happy to coordinate repairs. Our systems are robust enough to assist. Ellerin glanced at Thalron, silently requesting permission. At his nod, she took over. Lieutenant Ellerin Sorrell, our hyperdrive is offline, and the sublight thrusters are dangerously overheated. We could definitely use any spare parts you have. But if I may, she hesitated, uncertain how to phrase the question that burned in her mind. Are you truly human? Forgive me, but your people are spoken of as legends, rumored to have retreated into some uncharted domain centuries ago. Cross tilted his head. A fair question, Lieutenant. Humanity's history is complicated, and a large portion went off the interstellar grid to rebuild. While the galaxy moved on, we developed new technologies and kept watch. Now it seems the time has come to step out of the shadows, especially with the marauders running rampant. Thalron's color-shifting ridges settled on a wary orange. I've read only scraps of historical accounts describing Terran fleets capable of devastating entire armadas. Are you all that remains of your civilization? Or is there more? There's more, Cross replied, his lips curving into a measured smile. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. If you'll permit us to dock, I can bring my team aboard to help with immediate repairs, and we can talk further, diplomatically. A hush settled over the bridge as everyone waited for Thalron's decision. Their predicament was dire, and the possibility of forging an alliance, even a temporary one, with these fabled humans seemed like a lifeline. At last, Thalron exhaled a low hiss that signified resolution. We'd be honored to host you, Captain Cross. Please proceed with docking protocols. Elorin's heart fluttered with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. She couldn't shake the sense that history was unfolding right before her eyes. For better or worse, the reemergence of humankind would change everything. The docking corridor reverberated with a low hum as Ellerin led a small reception party to greet Captain Cross and his team. Despite the Sovereign Ray's battered state, the corridors were orderly, the crew demonstrating the discipline for which the Stellar Unity Corps was known. Ellerin smoothed the front of her uniform jacket, taking a steadying breath. Meeting an actual human face-to-face stirred up an undercurrent of excitement and tension that she strove to mask. As the pressurized doors hissed open, Cross stepped through in a less bulky version of his combat armor, followed by two other human officers, one male, one female, each bearing the distinctive Terran Confederation insignia. Ellerin observed Cross's movements, fluid, confident, undeniably sure of himself. It was a trait she'd heard repeated in half-whispered legends about humanity's adaptability and boldness. Commander Thalron, flanked by two ranking officers, inclined his head politely. "Welcome aboard the Sovereign Ray," he said, his voice resonant. "You've already saved many lives with your intervention. For that, we owe you gratitude." Cross offered a nod that was at once deferential and resolute. "Happy to help. We have engineering drones on standby if you need them, plus a selection of compatible parts we can share. I understand your drive system took a beating." Ellerin stepped forward, feeling the weight of Cross's gaze upon her. "Yes, Captain. Our hyperdrive couplings have fused, and the sublight engines are running on borrowed time. We have a specialized cooling system for the thrusters, but it's been damaged in the Marauder attack. Any assistance would be a lifesaver." "You'll get it," Cross assured, then gestured to his team. "Lieutenant Vega and Chief Engineer Parcell can head straight to your engine room with your permission." Thalron gestured for one of his own engineers to guide them. "Of course, the route is secured, and we'll brief them on the system's specifications." With a satisfied nod, Cross turned back to Ellerin. "I'm looking forward to seeing how your technology compares to ours. There's been quite a gap in our knowledge since we withdrew from the main galactic stage." Ellerin felt a spike of curiosity. "If you don't mind me asking, Captain, your vessel's hull composition is decidedly archaic, yet your weapons and shields appear more advanced than anything we've encountered. How is that possible?" Cross's lips twitched in a half-smile. "Well, that's part of our story. Humans learned to layer older, simpler materials with cutting-edge internal frameworks and energy shield systems. In a sense, our ships are blends of old and new. It helps us remain hidden when we want to be. Scans from a distance can be deceived by the antiquated outer hull. A startled laugh bubbled up from Aloran. You're telling me you essentially disguise yourselves as relics while having the capacity to annihilate a marauder fleet. Talk about cunning. The faint lines at the corners of Cross's eyes crinkled. Cunning is one word for it. When you exist as a rumor for centuries, you learn to embrace the mystique. There was a curious moment of silence as Ellerin and Cross regarded each other. Neither spoke, yet an unspoken understanding passed between them. They stood on the threshold of something that could redefine the balance of power in the galaxy, and possibly their own destinies as well. An hour later, Aloran found herself guiding Captain Cross through one of the Sovereign Ray's observation decks, a slender walkway with high windows overlooking the battered hull. The panoramic view also revealed Cross's ship, the Star Hunter, gracefully docked alongside. Watching that formidable vessel up close gave her a new appreciation for how it had decimated the Marauder flotilla without breaking a sweat. Cross let out a contemplative hum, scanning the star-dappled void beyond. We used to hear stories about how the galaxy progressed through the Terran Confederation decided to disengage. The official reason was that we needed to focus on our own regeneration after centuries of conflict. But there was always debate in our ranks about whether to re-emerge. Ellerin studied his profile. Your arrival couldn't be more timely. The Marauders have grown bold in recent years, challenging the Stellar Unity Corps and other regional alliances. We've come close to major catastrophes before, but losing any more key worlds could tip the scales into a galactic crisis. Cross inclined his head in empathy. Humanity's internal records talk about a group known as the Marauders. We battled them ages ago, but they were nowhere near as coordinated or technologically formidable back then. It seems they've made leaps of their own. She leaned against the transparent window, arms folded. They seize technology from every civilization they conquer, so each success makes them exponentially stronger. That's part of why we've been trying to coordinate a larger defensive front, but the galaxy is vast, and alliances are fraught with mistrust. His gaze flicked toward her, which is probably why your commander is being cautious with me. I don't blame him. A mysterious Terran warship appears, shattering centuries of rumor, and claims they want to help. If I were in his shoes, I'd keep my guard up too. Aloran allowed a slight grin. Thalrond is cautious, but he respects power, and you've shown plenty. Still, he's also a proponent of cooperation, or I doubt he would have let you dock so readily. Our situation is too dire for suspicion to override practicality. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics: daily life aboard the Sovereign Ray, the cultural intricacies of Thalron's reptilian species, and fleeting mentions of what human society had become in isolation. Every detail Cross provided further fed Aloran's fascination. She couldn't imagine a civilization that had thrived outside the recognized galaxy's boundaries, advancing in secrecy and mastering innovative forms of warfare and exploration. At length, Cross angled his body closer to hers, lowering his voice. If it's not improper, I'd love to learn more about the lieutenant who spotted our ship on sensors, especially when no one else could. His words carried a warmth that tugged at something deep within Aloran. She lifted an eyebrow, both intrigued and cautious. Call it a knack. I specialize in advanced scanning arrays and have a personal obsession with older starship designs. Your hull triggered my curiosity. The rest was just a puzzle to solve. Cross's slight smile sent a pleasant ripple through her chest. I have a feeling you solve puzzles very well. Before she could respond, the ship-wide intercom summoned them both to the bridge. Thalron wanted a joint tactical meeting to address the next steps. Tension lingered between them, undeniable, promising, and dangerously uncharted. They found the bridge abuzz with activity. Commander Thalron stood at the central holotable alongside Chief Engineer Parcell and Lieutenant Vega from the Star Hunter. Reviewing status reports, Thalron's ridges displayed a determined green, indicative of renewed resolve rather than fear. The energy coursing through the room suggested that the Sovereign Ray was regaining confidence. thanks in no small part to these unexpected human allies. Cross wasted no time, Ostiao. Commander, how fares the repair work? Parcell, a tall, broad-shouldered man with an unkempt beard, responded in a pragmatic tone. Your hyperdrive couplings were in worse shape than we expected, but I think we can install some of our universal modules to get you jump capable for a short hop. The sublight engines needed a thorough coolant flush and a new regulator, which we had in our stock. Thalron observed the projected star map above the table. Then we can make a short jump to the Usaran sector, where the Stellar Unity Core maintains a fortified outpost. Once we're there, we can properly rebuild the drive. But there's one complication. Our sensors show another cluster of Marauder ships scattered throughout the system. Jumping blindly risks dropping us right into their lap. Cross set a small data chip on the holo table, letting it interface with the Sovereign Rays systems. We've scouted that sector before. My team can upload navigational data to help you choose a safer drop point. From there, we can link up with your outpost. Aloran joined them, scanning the newly overlaid charts. With these coordinates, we could exit FTL behind a dense asteroid belt. It would give us a moment to assess the Marauder presence before we commit to traveling deeper in system. Thalron nodded, his ridges shifting to a more hopeful hue. Agreed. Captain Cross, you've given us a fighting chance. Let's finalize the details for this jump. While the conversation continued, Aloran felt a subtle shift in the air. The tension that had been coiled between her and Cross in the observation deck still pulsed, but it was tempered by the gravity of their shared mission. She knew fraternizing with a new ally could complicate interstellar diplomacy, but the interplay between them was difficult to ignore, especially considering the significance of this reemergence of humanity. As the strategic briefing concluded, Cross tilted his head toward her. Lieutenant, if you'd be willing, I'd like your assistance aboard the Star Hunter. We have advanced sensor calibrations that might mesh well with your scanning expertise. And since you managed to detect us once, I'd like to see that skill in action again. Thalron, overhearing, gave a pointed look to Aloran, then nodded. It would be prudent, Lieutenant. Anything that helps refine our jump route. Go. A swirl of excitement darted through her. Yes, sir, she acknowledged, trying to keep her composure. Then she gestured for Cross to lead the way. Together they departed the bridge, en route to the airlock that connected their vessels. Despite the circumspect nods from the crew around them, Elloran's mind brimmed with both professional ambition and a personal curiosity she couldn't quite name. If these humans were as formidable as the legend suggested, there was no telling how their presence might alter the future of the galaxy and perhaps of her own life. The Star Hunter's interior was equal parts function and unexpected sophistication. Aloran traversed its corridors alongside Captain Cross, noting how each bulkhead had a sleek design reminiscent of older engineering paradigms, yet peppered with incongruously advanced interfaces. Occasionally, they passed human crew members, men and women who regarded her with cordial curiosity, as though they too were fascinated by this new contact from outside their reclusive confederation. Cross led her to a secondary command center, dominated by a large circular holo table with multiple panels displaying star charts, energy readings, and tactical overlays. It was more compact than the Sovereign Rays bridge, but it bristled with technology that left Aloran marveling at how seamlessly old and new coexisted. This theme seemed consistent with everything about Captain Cross and his ship, an artful blend of tradition and cutting-edge innovation. All right, Lieutenant Sorrell, Cross said, stopping at the table's perimeter. He keyed a few commands, pulling up a rotating wireframe of the Usaran sector. Let's see if we can refine the jump-exit coordinates using your scanning expertise. Our data is solid, but you might spot something we overlooked. Aloran inhaled slowly, letting her eyes adapt to the glowing lines of the hologram. She overlaid her own mental image of the region, recalling past experiences in that area. Rumors of hidden slipstream pockets, gravitational anomalies from irregular asteroids, possible leftover mines from old conflicts. Deftly, she began toggling variables, reassigning sensor sweeps for more precise readings. Your cartography is impressive, she remarked, though I notice you've left out this dwarf star cluster on the sector's edge. The gravitational field from those stars can create microsingularities. Cross observed her with growing interest. That's the kind of detail we might have missed. Our last official survey was decades old. As she worked, Aloran felt a prickle of awareness. Cross was watching her closely, not merely out of curiosity for her technical skills, but something more personal. It took effort to maintain her concentration on the console instead of meeting his gaze. For a moment, her mind wandered to the intangible spark she'd felt earlier when he teased her about spotting the Star Hunter on the sensors. In an effort to refocus, she cleared her throat. Have your people really been monitoring the galaxy from the fringes all this time? Why choose now to emerge? Cross folded his arms across his broad chest. We had watchers and covert teams, yes, quietly assessing how interstellar politics evolved. As for why now, you might say the increasing chaos, marauder aggression, fracturing alliances, and a few other factors forced our hand. We couldn't remain shadows if we wanted to protect what was left of the Terran Confederation. He paused, scanning her features. And frankly, we saw potential in forging partnerships with groups that value cooperation, like the Stellar Unity Corps. You've certainly proven your ability to upend a battle in minutes, she conceded, finishing her recalibration. The marauders we faced never stood a chance. It makes me wonder if half the legends about humans are understated. A wry grin curled his lips. I won't pretend we're invincible, but humans are known for a certain tenacity. It's carried us through dark times. Ellerin pressed the final key, allowing the revised data to finalize. That should refine our jump coordinates by a few percentage points. Could save us from an ambush by prowling marauder patrols. She paused, glancing up. If you approve, Captain. Cross's expression glimmered with admiration. I absolutely do. Let's upload this to both ships. And Lieutenant, his gaze softened, turning uncharacteristically earnest. I'm grateful to have your eyes on this. For the record, that's a rare compliment from someone who spent so long operating under stealth. Ellerin felt warmth spread through her chest. It was a simple statement, but layered with an intimacy that unsettled and intrigued her in equal measure. Shortly after the new flight plan was dispatched, both the Star Hunter and Sovereign Ray's engines hummed in unison, primed for the carefully orchestrated, short-range hyperspace jump to the Usaran sector. Aloran accompanied Cross to the Star Hunter's primary bridge this time, a more spacious command center where key officers oversaw navigation, weapons, and communications. It was a curious blend of old Terran aesthetics, reminiscent of images she'd seen in ancient historical logs. Utilitarian metal walkways, overhead pipes, and control stations arranged in a semicircle around the captain's chair. Modern holographic systems filled the space with shimmering lights and data readouts, bridging the centuries between design philosophies. Standing near Cross's command seat, Ellerin listened as the helm officer counted down to jump. She glanced out the forward viewing panel, her breath catching slightly when the swirling kaleidoscope of hyperspace enveloped them. Even the standard FTL visuals seemed more vibrant from this vantage, possibly due to the specialized instrumentation the Star Hunter employed. A series of gentle lurches indicated that their flight path was stabilizing. Cross's voice carried across the bridge, firm yet measured. All stations, maintain readiness. Expect an immediate sensor sweep upon re-entry. Marauder presence is highly probable. A chorus of confirmations followed, the efficient synergy of the Star Hunter's crew remarkable to witness. Aloran, who prided herself on reading the mood of any given team, felt the disciplined yet familial vibe permeating the environment. These humans trusted each other with a fervor that bordered on reverence, likely honed by centuries of existing as a solitary confederation. Moments later, they dropped out of FTL. The darkness of normal space unfurled around them, broken only by the distant glow of a solitary star. The rest of the corridor lit up with sensor pings as the Star Hunter immediately scanned for threats. Data scrolled across numerous holo displays, and Aloran squinted at a cluster of red markers near the sector's center. Marauder ships, almost certainly. Commander Thalron's vessel also arrived safely, announced the communications officer, a willowy woman with keen eyes. They're holding position behind the asteroid belt as planned. Cross exhaled in mild relief. Good. Let's keep transmissions short and sweet. I'd prefer not to broadcast our location more than necessary. Aloran stepped up to the nearest console, comparing the Star Hunter's sensor readings with her own data from the Sovereign Ray. We have at least 3 Marauder frigates prowling near the sector's interior lanes, plus a heavier cruiser possibly near the outpost. That's going to complicate our approach. Cross nodded, gaze hardening. We might have to clear a path, or we can try a stealth insertion if you think your outpost is still intact enough to muster defenses once we're there. Lauren's lips pressed together. The outpost is well fortified, but if the Marauders are actively bombarding it, we'll need to intervene. Commander Thalron might advise a direct strike. A tight-lipped smile edged Cross's mouth. Direct strikes are something we excel at, but let's coordinate with Thalron to ensure we're not barging in blindly. We should also confirm if there are survivors on the outpost who can assist from the inside. She didn't miss the subtle glint of excitement in his eyes. It was the same intensity that had once made humankind the subject of so many cautionary tales. Yet here in the moment, seeing Cross's unwavering resolve, she felt reassured rather than afraid. Whatever darkness clung to human history, it was clear that their will to protect allies, old or new, burned just as strong. Within the hour, both ships arranged a secure comlink to finalize their plan. On the Sovereign Ray's side, Commander Thalron appeared via hologram, his ridges flickering with tension as he relayed the latest intelligence gleaned from their sensors. Marauder ships had indeed encircled the outpost station. Initial scans showed minimal hull damage, suggesting the station's defenses were holding, at least for now. Commander, Cross addressed Thalron's holographic form, I propose a two-pronged approach. The Star Hunter will draw the Marauder frigates away from the station, using decoy signals and targeted attacks. Meanwhile, the Sovereign Ray slips in with a minimal signature profile to reinforce the outpost and help them restore any offline defense systems. Thalron's ridges shifted to a more resolute shade. Sound strategy. The Marauders will likely focus on the bigger threat, which is undoubtedly you. Lauren's modifications to our scans show a navigational corridor through the asteroid belt that might let us slip behind the station undetected. Lauren, standing beside Cross, spoke up. Once you're docked, Commander, you can coordinate with the outpost garrison. If they still have any operational planetary cannons, that could add a potent layer of fire support. Understood, Lieutenant, Thalron replied. We'll move as soon as your distraction begins. Keep us informed of any changes in enemy deployment. The channel closed with a flicker, leaving the Star Hunter's bridge in a short lull before the storm of battle. Cross glanced around at his crew, then at Aloran. All right, people, you know the plan. Prepare decoy drones and spool up primary weapons. The Marauders are dangerous, but if we catch them off guard, we can scatter their formation. As the crew hustled to their stations, Aloran felt a sudden pang of nervous excitement. She had been in battles before, but never with a Terran warship at her side, especially one rumored to be as formidable as the Star Hunter. Her heart thudded as she thought of what a direct engagement might look like. Cross's hand brushed her shoulder, a fleeting gesture that made her pulse spike. Stay near the communications console. We'll need your insight on scanning anomalies. Our stealth approach is decent, but you might notice if the Marauders are anticipating our moves. She nodded, pushing down the flutter of awareness his touch elicited. Yes, Captain, I'll do my best. Minutes later, the Star Hunter eased out of the asteroid belt, thrusters on a low burn. Aloran watched the tactical overlay as a trio of small decoy drones shot ahead, each broadcasting a faint replica of Terran energy signatures. If the Marauders had advanced sensors, they'd assume at least 3 Terran craft were approaching, hopefully enough of a bluff to draw them off the outpost blockade. In the distance, faint glints of metal revealed the approaching Marauder frigates. They altered course to intercept, and Cross's voice rang out decisively. Weapons, lock on and fire as soon as they're in range. Let them think they're hitting multiple targets. Then we'll show them the real might of the Star Hunter. Aloran steadied her breathing, her gaze fixed on the swirling data. She tried to filter out everything except the mission, but a part of her couldn't ignore the sense of wonder she felt serving alongside a living legend. Humans, it turned out, weren't just stories passed around star academies. They were here, flesh and blood, changing the fate of the galaxy one decisive strike at a time. The Marauder frigates fell for the ruse, dispatching at least 2 of their vessels to chase the decoy drones, while the remaining one barreled directly toward the Star Hunter. Cannons on the Marauder ship glowed with a sickly green light as it unleashed pulses of destructive energy. Every time one of those pulses collided with the Star Hunter's shields, a shimmering ripple spread across the defensive barrier. "Shields at 90%, reported the tactical officer, calm yet vigilant. "Return fire," Cross commanded. "Focus on their weapons arrays. Let's not give them a chance to regroup." Arcs of brilliant white-blue energy lanced out from the Star Hunter's forward turrets, tearing through the Marauder frigate's hull plating. Over the comms, Aloran heard the guttural roars of the Marauders as they scrambled to reorient. Despite the chaos, they kept firing, scattering bursts of plasma that splattered across the Star Hunter's shields. Meanwhile, from the corner of her eye, Aloran monitored the Sovereign Ray's progress. Thalron had taken advantage of the distraction and slipped around the far side of the outpost. The station's docking clamps had engaged, and they were ready to offload relief teams. She couldn't help the small surge of pride at how seamlessly their plan was unfolding. The Marauder frigate, battered but not broken, attempted a desperate maneuver, rushing forward to ram the Star Hunter. Alarms blared as proximity sensors flared red. Cross's jaw set in determination. "Engines, reverse thrust! Helm, roll starboard! Hard!" Aloran clung to a nearby rail as the Star Hunter banked violently. The Marauder frigate scraped past, missing the Star Hunter's midsection by meters. The collision that might have crippled lesser ships turned into a glancing blow on the Star Hunter's shields. In response, the Terran gunners unleashed a final, devastating salvo that cored the Marauder vessel's engine block. A bright plume of superheated gases erupted from the frigate, which spun off into the void, lifeless. "Frigate neutralized," someone called from the weapons station. "The other two are still chasing decoys. Should we pursue?" Cross shook his head. "Negative. Let them wander a bit. Our main concern is ensuring the outpost is clear." Aloran reconnected with Thalron's frequency. The holodisplay flickered to life, showing the commander standing in a partially lit corridor with signs of blaster fire scorched into the walls. "Lieutenant, Captain Cross," he said, breathing heavily. "The station's defenders have put up a fight, but the Marauders are trying to breach from multiple airlocks. We need immediate backup to secure the interior." Cross grimaced, glancing at Aloran. "We can't leave the outpost vulnerable. I'll deploy one of our specialized boarding squads." Aloran nodded. "I'll coordinate their approach. I know the outpost layout fairly well from previous rotations." An almost electric sense of purpose coursed through her. She was stepping deeper into the synergy of Terran and Unity Corps collaboration, bridging the knowledge gap for the greater good. Cross motioned to a nearby comm officer. "Scramble teams Theta and Sigma. Tell them to link up with Commander Thalron's people inside the station. Maintain a tight comm channel. We're not done yet. There could be more Marauder ships inbound once they realize the decoys aren't real." As the plan unfolded, Aloran marveled at the swift, sure coordination. Humans, once mythical warriors, were now allies in a life-or-death struggle. Watching Captain Cross seamlessly lead his forces alongside Thalron reminded her that the galaxy's future could shift in an instant when old legends became flesh and blood. Something stirred within her: hope, anticipation, and perhaps a glimmer of affection for the man who stood at the center of it all. With the immediate threat near the outpost contained, the Star Hunter moved into a supportive orbit around the station. Meanwhile, the Sovereign Ray remained docked, offloading medics and security personnel to aid in repelling the entrenched Marauder boarding parties. Aloran guided the Terran boarding squads via her console, highlighting choke points and potential flank routes. Through audio feeds, she caught bursts of gunfire, shouts in multiple languages, and the hiss of decompression as the fighting raged on. "Commander Thalron," she called into her headset, scanning a schematic of the outpost's interior decks. "You have a large group of Marauders near Cargo Bay 6. They're attempting to breach into the station's command center. Captain Cross has squads inbound from Deck 3 to cut them off." A ragged laugh filtered back through the comm. "Understood, Lieutenant. We've sealed the blast doors. We'll hold as long as necessary. By the stars, these humans know how to fight. Saw one of them take down 3 Marauders with a single plasma grenade." Aloran felt an unusual welling of pride. "Yes, they do, Commander. Hang on, I see reinforcements heading your way." She switched channels to Cross, who stood at a specialized combat station on the Star Hunter's bridge. "Captain, Your squads are nearing Cargo Base 6. I'm rerouting them through an auxiliary corridor. Should give them a clean shot at the Marauders' flank. Cross's voice came through low but resolute. Acknowledged. Keep me updated if you detect any more heat signatures. And Lieutenant, thank you. Your tactical insights are making this a lot easier. Warmth spread through her at the commendation. Just doing my part. For the next half hour, the combined efforts of Terran and Unity Corps forces methodically eradicated the Marauder presence within the outpost. Occasional static-laden updates reached Aloran's console. At one point, she tensed upon hearing about heavy casualties among the station's defenders, only to exhale in relief when news came that the Terran squads had arrived in time to stabilize the wounded. Finally, a coded all-clear signal flashed, signifying the recapture of critical sections. Thalron's voice emerged once more, this time tempered by exhaustion, but laced with victory. The station is secure. The Marauders that remain are either surrendering or jettisoning out escape pods. We've secured the command center and reactivated the station's defensive grid. Cheers erupted across the Star Hunters bridge. Cross leaned back from the combat station, letting out a long breath. Well done, everyone. That's one more point in the galaxy where Marauders won't be terrorizing innocent people. Aloran felt her chest swell. Echoing the jubilation around her, she remembered all the times she had listened to horrifying stories of Marauder brutality. Stopping them here, even if just for a moment, was a tangible step toward pushing back the darkness they spread. As the Star Hunters crew shifted to post-battle protocols, Cross approached her station. We'll be docking with the outpost soon. I'd like you to accompany me. Commander Thalron will be there, and I want to show the station's leadership that Terrans and Unity Corps can stand side by side, literally. She straightened. I'll be honored, Captain. There was an almost electric flicker in his expression, gone in an instant. Let's help them rebuild. After that, maybe we can talk about what comes next, for us all. Ellerin nodded, her heart pounding in anticipation. She had a feeling that what comes next would be no small matter, especially with Captain Nathan Cross and his people now entering the galactic stage in force. The docking process was smooth, guided by the outpost's now functional systems. Aloran and Cross descended the ramp of the Star Hunters airlock into the station's main concourse, where flickering overhead lights cast elongated shadows across bulkheads riddled with blaster marks. The metallic tang of overheated circuitry hung in the recycled air, mingled with the acrid scent of burnt alloys. Commander Thalron awaited them with a small honor guard, his scaled brow furrowed in clear relief at seeing them alive. Captain Cross, Lieutenant Sorrell, you're both welcome sights. Thanks to your assistance, we've staved off a takeover that could have spelled doom for everyone here. Cross shook Thalron's hand firmly, an almost symbolic merging of their respective command styles. Our fight's not over. Some of the Marauders fled, and they may regroup, but we've proven they can't just stroll in unchallenged. Aloran observed the corridor around them, injured personnel receiving medical attention, technicians racing to restore life support systems in the damaged compartments. She noticed how Terran soldiers and Unity Corps officers worked side by side, sometimes using a hodgepodge of gestures and basic translations to coordinate. It was a chaotic mosaic of cooperation that somehow worked beautifully. A figure limped over, wearing the uniform of the outpost commanding officer. Colonel Regaro, a broad-shouldered avian humanoid with pastel plumage drooping from fatigue, mustered a respectful salute. Commander Thalron, I owe you and your allies a debt of gratitude. If not for Captain Cross's strike teams, we'd have lost our command center, and likely our lives. It was a team effort, Cross interjected, waving off any attempt at hero worship. We can do more, though. The Star Hunter carries auxiliary supplies, medical gear, rations, advanced repair drones. Let us help stabilize you before we move on. Regaro bowed his head. You honor us, Captain. Once things calm, I'd also appreciate a moment to speak with you. There have been persistent rumors about humans. You appear to have single-handedly revived them. Cross shot Aloran an amused look, as if to say, I guess we can't hide anymore. She found herself smiling back. Indeed, the sight of Terran boots on the station's deck was more than just an alliance. It was the living confirmation of a legend. They continued through the concourse, stepping past piles of debris where drones sifted for salvageable parts. Despite the bustle, Aloran felt a tingle of awareness each time Cross walked near her. His presence was magnetic in a way that went beyond mere confidence. She'd heard about the rumored intensity of human emotions, especially their fabled capacity for devotion, whether in warfare, art, or romance. Seeing him interact with her people with such earnest goodwill reinforced that notion. Eventually, they found themselves outside the station's command briefing room, a circular chamber with tinted windows overlooking the battered docking platforms. Inside, they gathered with Colonel Regaro, Thalron, and a few other ranking officers to discuss the station's immediate needs. The conversation revolved around re-establishing defensive shields, repairing outer hull breaches, and coordinating with nearby sectors to warn them of marauder activity. At one point, Regaro coughed softly into his winged arm. There is also the matter of forging a formal alliance with the Terrans. If you truly have resources to help in this war, we'd be fools to refuse. Ilorin didn't miss the flicker in Thalron's eyes, equal parts caution and hope. It dawned on her that this was bigger than a single-station rescue. This might be the first real diplomatic step in bridging centuries of separation between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Cross nodded. We are open to such discussions, but I must be clear, we're not here to usurp power or impose our will. We see the Marauders as a mutual threat, and we believe in strength through unity. Thalron's ridges flared a warmer hue, indicating guarded optimism. Then perhaps, Captain, we can all begin forging new history today. Aloran allowed herself a fleeting glance at Cross, history indeed, and she couldn't help but sense that her personal story was now irrevocably bound to his. In the weeks following the Outpost rescue, the Stellar Unity Corps and the Terran Confederation made tentative but promising strides toward cooperation. Cross's Star Hunter coordinated with several other Terran ships, now emerging from hidden enclaves, to deliver much-needed supplies to frontier worlds under threat. Meanwhile, Commander Thalron and various Unity Corps envoys convened with human representatives to draft provisional treaties. For Ilorin, life became a whirlwind of diplomatic gatherings, sensor calibrations, and sometimes covert operations to root out lingering marauder cells. She found herself frequently at Cross's side, their initial professional synergy evolving into a deeply personal connection, something that both exhilarated and unsettled her. One evening after a long day of briefings, Ilorin stepped into a newly repurposed conference suite aboard the Star Hunter. She'd expected to find Cross reviewing documents, but instead, he stood by a wide observation window, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the swirl of a nebula outside. He glanced over his shoulder. "Hey, Lieutenant, you look tired." "I am," she admitted, crossing the threshold into the softly lit room. She let out a breath, dropping the formality. "We're not on an official channel, so you can call me Ilorin." A small, appreciative smile curved his lips. "Ilorin." He turned fully to face her. "I wanted some quiet time. The negotiations can be draining, especially when old prejudices flare up. Sometimes even my own people question if we're making the right call by returning to the galactic stage now." She approached him, stopping a short distance away. "Change scares everyone. Even with the marauder threat uniting us, not all species are quick to trust. But think of what we've accomplished in mere weeks." His gaze held hers, that electric intensity sparking again. "I do. And I credit so much of that to you. You bridged the gap between us, literally and figuratively." The sincerity in his voice sent warmth flooding through her. "I just followed my instincts. When I saw your ship on my scanners, something told me it wasn't the threat we feared. Sometimes you have to trust your gut, even if centuries of rumors say otherwise." Cross stepped closer, the steady hum of the Star Hunter systems filling the silence. "I've seen a lot in my time, Ilorin, both good and terrible, but I've never quite experienced this. Working with you feels natural. It feels right." She found herself swaying closer to him, her pulse hammering in her ears. "Nathan." His name barely left her lips before his arms circled her, pulling her gently against his chest. Their lips met, a soft, searching kiss that shattered the tension that had been building for days. It was tentative at first, but the emotion behind it was undeniable. A culmination of mutual respect, longing, and relief. No words needed to be spoken. The shared hush said everything. When they finally parted, she noticed a slight tremor in his usually steady hands. "I didn't want to assume," he said quietly, "but I hoped you might feel the same." Elloren's heart soared as she pressed a palm to his chest. "I do." Despite all the complexities, her duty, his heritage, the uncertain galactic climate, this moment felt unequivocally right. They had stepped off the edge of old boundaries and into new territory, uncharted yet filled with promise. Word of a formal summit within the Unity Council soon reached every corner of the known galaxy. Representatives from numerous species, including curious observers from the Terran Confederation, would convene at the Unity Core Central Station, Viralis Prime, an expansive orbital habitat that served as the political heart of dozens of star systems. Amid the flurry of preparations, Aloran often found herself juggling dual roles, official liaison for the Unity Core and something akin to a Terran cultural bridge, thanks to her deepening relationship with Cross. Their newfound closeness wasn't exactly a secret. Crew members of both the Sovereign Ray and the Star Hunter whispered, but mostly in tones of approval. Commander Thalron, for his part, had adopted a pragmatic stance. "Lieutenant, I trust your professionalism remains intact," he stated one day, as they walked a corridor leading to a debriefing. "What you do off-duty is your concern, provided it doesn't compromise operations." She had nodded, aware that among her own people there would be those who frowned upon a cross-species romance, especially with a human whose reappearance challenged centuries of established lore. Still, she appreciated Thalron's open-mindedness. "I assure you, sir, I know the boundaries." When the time came to depart for Viralis Prime, a small flotilla of Terran ships accompanied the Unity Core fleet. The sight of them exiting FTL together side by side was nothing short of historic. Holo reporters across the starways broadcast the images. The once mythic Terran warships gliding in formation with the galaxy's standing defenders, forging a new narrative with each parsec traveled. Viralis Prime itself loomed large through the viewport as Aileron arrived on the Star Hunter, standing beside Cross in the bridge. She marveled at the station's colossal ring segments, each housing distinct environmental zones, from artificial seas to mountainous terrain, meant to accommodate delegates of various homeworlds. Cross let out a low whistle. "Quite the setup. Our people built smaller habitats, but never anything this grand. I can see the level of commitment the Unity Core has to making multi-species life work." "Much of it was funded after the last major galactic war," Aloran explained. "It became a symbol of renewed peace. We hold the major summits here. If we're truly going to unite against the Marauders, this is the place to make it official." As they maneuvered into a docking clamp, an incoming transmission from the station requested final clearance codes. Aloran handled the formalities quickly, her credentials recognized. The docking sequence completed with a soft jolt, and within minutes, the Star Hunter's main hatch linked to the station's arrival concourse. Cross and Aloran walked down the ramp, joined by a handful of Terran officers and Unity Core aides. The concourse bustled with delegates, tall amphibious ambassadors, an avian envoy preening its plumage, and a stoic group of reptilian soldiers. Most heads turned their way, curiosity and wariness mingling in equal measure. Cameras floated on small anti-grav platforms, capturing every angle for interstellar news networks. "This is it," Ellerin whispered to Cross, excitement laced with nerves. "If the Council votes to welcome Terrans into a formal alliance, everything changes." He reached for her hand, giving it a discreet squeeze before letting go, maintaining decorum. "Then let's make our case. I'm ready to show them that humans can be more than legends or nightmares." She smiled, bracing herself for the diplomatic storm that awaited them inside. The Grand Assembly Chamber in Viralis Prime was a wonder of architecture, vast, circular, and tiered, with luminous panels depicting star fields from various sectors. Delegates filled raised platforms arranged in concentric rings. At the center stood a central dais, reserved for key speakers. Ellerin and Cross waited in an antechamber just off the main arena, reviewing last-minute notes with Commander Thalron and a small coterie of aides. Thalron's ridges kept shifting in a slow cycle of colors that Ellerin recognized as a mix of apprehension and anticipation. "The Council can be fiercely protective of their protocols. Keep your statements clear and direct." Some of these delegates have a history of stalling or grandstanding. Cross nodded. I'm prepared for skepticism. We've already proven we can fight the Marauders, but that won't be enough. Trust takes more than one victory. Aloran inhaled deeply, remembering the countless nights she'd spent on the Star Hunter or the Sovereign Ray, analyzing Marauder intel, forging strategic plans, and sharing private moments with Cross that gave her a fierce sense of optimism. We have the data to back up a genuine alliance. Let's hope the majority sees reason. Moments later, a protocol officer signaled them to enter. The dais lights highlighted their small group as they stepped onto the central platform. A hush fell over the chamber. Thousands of eyes and a swarm of floating cams fixated on the Terran Unity Corps delegation. A senior official from the Unity Corps, an elder named Counselor Sorrell, stood to greet them. Her voice, amplified gently by the chamber's acoustics, resonated with calm authority. We gather here at a turning point in galactic history. The Marauders are a known threat, escalating each year. Recently, an extraordinary event occurred, the reappearance of Terrans, long thought to be lost to the frontier. Today, we consider formalizing a partnership that could shift the balance against our common enemy. Ellerin felt her pulse quicken as Counselor Sarrel invited Commander Thalron to speak first. He delivered a crisp report of the rescue operations at the outpost, praising the Terrans' courage and technology. Then he yielded the floor to Cross. Cross's voice, steady and strong, resonated through the hall. He recounted a brief history of Terran withdrawal from the galactic stage, how they had faced internal turmoil and external threats, choosing isolation to rebuild. Now, he concluded, we can no longer stand by while Marauders pillage and enslave. We bring our advanced technologies, our strategic acumen, and our willingness to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Ripples of conversation swept through the tiers. Some delegates nodded in apparent agreement. Others regarded Cross with suspicion. One tall, amphibious representative demanded to know why the Terrans waited centuries to return. A feathered delegate from the Alarian cluster questioned the Terrans' motives. Were they seeking to conquer? Cross handled the barrage of skepticism with commendable composure, calmly citing examples of recent joint operations, like the outpost defense. Ellerin watched him with a surge of pride. She recalled the countless hours they'd spent discussing exactly these concerns, anticipating pushback from older, more entrenched alliances. Eventually, it was Aloran's turn. She highlighted the synergy between her own scanning expertise and Terran's stealth technology, offering it as a testament to how well their two forces could integrate. The lieutenant stands as living proof of collaboration, Thalron added, his tone respectful. Without her and Captain Cross's cooperative planning, dozens of worlds would remain at the Marauders' mercy. A hush again descended. Counselor Sarrel made a formal motion for the Assembly to vote on whether to admit the Terrans into the Alliance framework, forging what she called the United Defense Pact. Over the next hour, delegates cast their votes, some with robust endorsements, others with clear reservations. Aloran's heart thudded each time a tally displayed on the circular array around the dais. In the end, the majority was clear. By a decisive margin, the Terrans were welcomed into the Alliance. A wave of relief swept Aloran's body as the chamber erupted in cautious applause. History had just been rewritten in a single stroke. That evening, the summit's success was celebrated with a formal reception in one of Viralis Prime's grand halls. Surrounded by luscious hanging gardens and illuminated waterfalls, delegates mingled to the sound of soft, multi-species orchestral music. Food and drink from myriad cultures were laid out in an extravagant buffet, reflecting the unity the station aimed to promote. Aloran found herself in the company of Terrans, Unity Corps officers, and curious ambassadors from all corners of the galaxy. She courteously answered questions about her experiences with the Star Hunter, smiling each time the conversation turned to the rumored romance between her and Captain Cross, though she carefully kept the focus on professional achievements. Cross, for his part, commanded the attention of a lively group near one of the waterfalls, regaling them with short anecdotes of Terran daily life, how they'd thrived in hidden enclaves, their leaps in medical science, and even a few tales of Terran cuisine. Periodically, he caught Aloran's gaze across the room, smiling in a way that implied he'd much rather be by her side. Eventually, he excused himself and joined her under a sculpted archway festooned with glowing vines. The subtle shift in the lighting made his features appear softer, yet no less confident. "How are you holding up?" he asked quietly, a wry tilt to his mouth. "You've had quite an evening of polite interrogation." Aloran sighed, relief and weariness in equal measure. "I think the entire galaxy wants to know if we plan on toppling governments together or saving them. The irony is that we're still exploring what it means to stand side by side ourselves." He leaned in, the hush of the nearby waterfall creating a secluded ambiance. "Whatever the future holds, I'm certain I want you in mine. Does that sound too bold?" Her heart fluttered at his directness. "Not at all, I feel the same." She briefly touched his arm, mindful of the watchful eyes around them. Before they could continue, Commander Thalron's voice cut through the chatter. "Captain Cross, Lieutenant Sorrell," he called, striding up with Counselor Sorrell in tow. "It seems we have an urgent communication from the frontier. Another wave of marauder ships is gathering near the Olzen Gap. They're attacking merchant convoys and appear to be massing for a larger assault." Cross's casual warmth morphed into focused determination. "How large a force are we talking?" Sorrell's expression was grim. "Initial reports suggest at least 10 capital ships, plus assorted escorts. They've established a forward operating base in that region." A hush settled over the small group. The new alliance had barely formed, and already it faced a major test. Ellerin glanced at Thalron. "We should mobilize as soon as possible. The Star Hunter and the Unity Corps ships can coordinate a rapid response." Commander Thalron nodded. "Agreed. Counselor Serral has promised to expedite any reinforcements. Captain Cross, if this alliance is to prove itself, we'll need you at the forefront." Cross straightened, the flicker of a warrior's spirit lighting his eyes. "Count on it. We'll show these marauders that they no longer have free rein." He glanced at Aloran, and she saw in his expression both resolve and the quiet promise that they would face this threat together. Within the hour, the celebration ended in a flurry of activity as the alliance mobilized. Delegates parted ways with hurried handshakes, adrenaline replacing champagne toasts. The galaxy's new defenders, Terran and otherwise, prepared to engage in what might be the first of many battles under their united banner. The joint fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Olzen Gap, a region riddled with swirling cosmic dust clouds and hidden gravitational pockets. Through the Star Hunter's forward viewports, Aloran and Cross surveyed the formation of Alliance ships, Unity Corps vessels, newly arrived Terran Confederation warships, and even a few volunteer frigates from sympathetic species. Though diverse in design and armament, they were united by a singular purpose. Commander Thalron's voice crackled over the fleet-wide channel. "All vessels, maintain formation Beta. We have confirmed readings of Marauder capital ships near coordinates 57.3 by 12.5. Lieutenant Sorrell, I trust your refined scanning arrays will keep us updated on any enemy flanking maneuvers." Aloran, stationed at the Star Hunter's advanced sensor suite, keyed in a response. "Yes, Commander. I'm tying in data from multiple sources. We'll see them coming if they try to slip around us." Cross, standing at the center of the bridge, exchanged a grim look with his weapons officer. "Let's keep the main cannons charged. I doubt the marauders will talk before firing." Over the next few minutes, the sensor pings intensified. The holo display showed a thick cluster of red signatures, a daunting array of warships, each bristling with stolen technology from countless conquered worlds. It was a chilling sight, especially knowing these marauders had left a trail of devastation across the frontier. "All ships, this is Captain Nathan Cross," he announced over the comm, every bit the confident Terran leader. "Stand by for coordinated strikes. We'll approach as one, focus fire on their flagship first. If we can decapitate their chain of command, the rest might scatter." A wave of affirmations rolled in from various captains. The moment felt historic. Terrans and other species rallying under a single directive. The sense of unity pulsed through the comm frequencies, forging camaraderie in the face of looming danger. The marauders wasted no time. Long-range energy lances flared to life, scorching through the cosmic dust. The Alliance fleet responded in kind, beams of multicolored plasma lighting the void. The initial exchange was fierce. Shields crackled with reactive bursts, and smaller escort ships darted to avoid crippling hits. Lauren deftly monitored the battle's shifting contours, feeding Cross real-time updates. They're trying to encircle us. 4 cruisers moving on the left flank. Cross nodded. Unity Corps destroyers move to intercept. Terran Wing Beta provide fighter support. Keep them pinned down. At the same time, the Star Hunter's main cannons found their mark, drilling into one of the Marauder battleships. Its hull buckled under the sustained barrage, venting atmosphere and flames. The Allied ships pressed the advantage, capitalizing on the Marauders' momentary disarray. Yet the Marauders were no pushovers. A monstrous capital ship emerged from a dust cloud, weapon arrays glowing with ominous emerald brilliance. It unleashed a barrage that slammed into the Alliance lines, fracturing a Unity frigate into molten shards. Cries for medical teams flooded the channels. Cross ground his teeth. Weapons. Channel maximum power to the forward guns. Let's see if we can't gut that beast. Aloran, do we have a firing solution? She punched in rapid calculations, her chest tight with urgency. One moment. Got it. Target their reactor core at these coordinates. If the blast ignites, it'll cripple their main power conduit. Fire, Cross barked. An intense beam erupted from the Star Hunter's prow, slicing through the vacuum. The capital ship's shields held for a scant few seconds before collapsing, the beam penetrating its armor. A shudder rippled across the Marauder vessel as secondary explosions flared. With a resounding detonation, the ship tore apart, sending debris swirling into the dust field. Cheers erupted in the Alliance channels. Despite the losses, the momentum had shifted. Terrans and Unity Corps forces combined methodical precision with raw firepower, gradually boxing in the remaining Marauders. Aloran guided reinforcement waves to critical skirmish points, ensuring no flank was left unprotected. By the time the last Marauder ships attempted to flee, the Alliance had them cornered. One after another, the enemy vessels were disabled or destroyed. Those that did manage to jump away would carry the tale of a newly forged alliance with the might to stand against them. As the final shots faded, the comm channels crackled with triumphant relief and sorrow for the fallen. Aloran sank back in her chair, exhaling a shaky breath. She locked eyes with Cross across the bridge. They'd done it. Together, they had proven the Terran Unity partnership was more than a ceremonial agreement. It was a force to be reckoned with. In the aftermath of the decisive battle, fleets across the galaxy realigned their priorities. The newly minted United Defense Pact began dispatching peacekeeping patrols and establishing forward bases to prevent further Marauder incursions. Media outlets across known space broadcast the dramatic footage of Terran ships fighting alongside the Unity Corps, capturing the imagination of millions. Where once humans were whispered legends or bedtime stories, they were now living heroes. For Aloran and Cross, the triumph was bittersweet. They had lost allies in the conflict, and the burden of leadership weighed heavily on them both. Yet at the same time, every success brought them closer, as shared adversity forged a bond that neither war nor politics could sever. Weeks passed as they hopped between star systems, assisting in the stabilization efforts. Whenever they found a moment's respite, they retreated to quiet corners on the Star Hunter or other allied stations, cherishing rare moments of calm. On one such evening, they stood on a small observation deck of Station Tethalon, a supply hub near the front lines. The wide bay windows overlooked a swirl of shimmering stardust. Aloran leaned into Cross's arms, letting the slow beat of his heart ground her. You know, if someone had told me a year ago that I'd be standing here, on the brink of a new era, wrapped in a human's embrace, I would have called them delirious. He smiled against her temple. Trust me, I didn't expect I'd find not just acceptance, but love in a galaxy that practically forgot we existed. She twisted around to face him, her gaze serious. Have you thought about what happens next? Our people are already talking about deeper integration, sharing technology, forming mixed crews. But for us, personally, he stroked a thumb across her cheek. We make our own path. This alliance, the battles, the politics, they're all crucial. But I refuse to let them overshadow what we have. Is that naive? Hopeful, she corrected softly, leaning in to rest her forehead against his. I think about the future, too. What if we... She paused, nerves dancing. Start a family someday. Our species biologically differ, but there are advanced science teams that might help. Or if not that, just a life together in some capacity. It feels both exhilarating and frightening. Cross's eyes lit up with a tender warmth she rarely saw in public. I haven't dared to articulate it, but yes, I want that. This universe is harsh, especially with the marauders out there. But maybe that's all the more reason to create something worth fighting for. Emotions swelled in Aloran's chest, and she realized just how deeply she'd fallen for this Terran who once was only a myth in her mind. Before she could respond, her communicator chimed. Reluctantly, she stepped back to check it. Commander Thalrond is requesting our presence, something about drafting a formal high command structure for the new defense pact. Cross let out a wry laugh. Never a dull moment, is there? She took his hand. Not when you're rewriting centuries of history. Together they left the observation deck, a renewed sense of purpose guiding their steps. Their personal journey and the galaxy's future were entwined in ways neither had imagined. And though battles still loomed on the horizon, they walked forward united, determined to face whatever came next, side by side. The following months were a whirlwind of milestones for the United Defense Pact. The Marauders, having suffered repeated defeats, retreated to distant sectors, their once unstoppable reputation tarnished. Newly liberated systems flocked to the Alliance banner, each grateful for Terran support and the Unity Corps' steadfast guardianship. Joint academies sprouted in multiple locations, training cadets from both human and alien backgrounds to operate in cohesive units. Aloran and Cross were at the heart of these developments. Their operational success stories circulated widely, inadvertently turning them into the Alliance's poster couple. Hollow posters depicted a stylized image of a Terran warship and a Unity Corps cruiser flying side by side, with the slogan, "Together we are stronger." Aloran found it both flattering and daunting, especially when well-wishers approached her with starry-eyed reverence. Amid the flurry, a pivotal moment arrived when the Council extended an invitation for a ceremonial union, a tradition that symbolized the formal joining of two major powers within the Alliance. Typically, it was a political act, signatories exchanging vows of friendship and mutual defense. But with the galaxy abuzz about Aloran and Cross's bond, the Council suggested a combined personal and diplomatic ceremony, one that could unify both the political alliance and their blossoming relationship. When Commander Thalron first broached the subject, Aloran nearly choked on her drink. "A what ceremony?" she stammered, glancing at Cross for support. Thalron's ridges glowed with mild amusement. In the ancient tradition of the Unity Corps, merging the commitments of individuals and states in one formal rite has historical precedent. It would be optional, of course. Cross rubbed the back of his neck. "So you're suggesting we make our union official in front of the entire galaxy?" "More or less," Thalron replied. "If you two are willing." Counselor Sorrell believes it could solidify the Alliance's spirit, showing that species differences are not an obstacle. The Terrans are evidently supportive too. Admiral Townsend, one of your highest-ranking officers, has expressed interest in attending. Aloran's heart pounded. She looked at Cross, expecting hesitation, but found gentle resolve instead. The corners of his mouth lifted. "I'd never have imagined celebrating such a union in front of half the galaxy. But if it means uniting our people and, well, celebrating what we share, I'm in." A swirl of emotions whirled inside Aloran, excitement, nerves, a touch of anxiety. But overshadowing all of that was a profound certainty. She took Cross's hand. "Then let's do it." Plans accelerated from that point. Preparations for a grand ceremony on Viralis Prime took shape. The station's main hall, where delegates once debated, would be transformed into a place of celebration, merging elements of Terran tradition with Unity Corps rites. Floral arches for the Terrans, a luminescent water fountain for the Corps. Invitations were sent across the galaxy, from the remotest outposts to the bustling core worlds. In the midst of the hustle, Aloran found pockets of quiet. Sometimes she worried about tradition, about her family's reaction, about whether the galaxy's eyes would turn a sacred personal union into a spectacle. Yet each time Cross was there, reassuring her with unwavering devotion. "This is our choice," he would say, "and that's what makes it real." By the time the date arrived, the station was abloom with banners and lights. Delegations flooded in, eager to witness a union that signaled more than love. It heralded the dawn of a new era. Aloran stood in front of a mirror, adjusting her formal attire, a unique hybrid of Terran fabric and the silken flows of her own species' ceremonial dress. Butterflies danced in her stomach, but a radiant glow of anticipation shone in her eyes. Today would be the day they sealed their vows, not just to each other, but to the alliance and the future they were forging. Music, an ethereal fusion of Terran strings and the melodic hums favored by the Unity Core, filled the great hall of Viralis Prime. Rows of seats brimming with dignitaries, old comrades, and newly minted allies focused on the central dais. Dappled lights projected images of starfields across the high ceiling, casting dancing constellations over the gathered crowd. Eloran stepped onto the dais with measured grace, wearing a gown that symbolized both her cultural heritage and Terran influences. The shimmering fabric changed color subtly as she moved, shifting from the lavender hue of her uniform to a deeper oceanic blue. Across from her, Nathan Cross stood in a tailored formal uniform that retained elements of Terran martial tradition. Medals pinned across the chest, the Confederation insignia shining near his heart. Between them stood Counselor Sorrell and Admiral Townsend, a representation of their two worlds uniting. Commander Thalron and other close allies formed an honor guard around the dais. Countless cameras and eyes bore witness to what many were calling the Union of the Century. Eloran's heart swelled with emotion. She could hardly believe this was the same station hall where months earlier they had debated Terran membership. Now it radiated hope, filled with a hum of possibility. She clasped Cross's hands, feeling the comforting roughness of his palms. Counselor Sorrell spoke first, her voice echoing through the chamber. We gather to celebrate more than an alliance. We gather to celebrate the bond of two souls who met as strangers, once divided by myths and distance, and who found unity in trust, cooperation, and love. Admiral Townsend followed, speaking in the proud Terran timbre. The Terran Confederation has risen from seclusion to stand with the galaxy. In Lieutenant Eloran Sorrell and Captain Nathan Cross, we witness the highest ideals of our new partnership: bravery, empathy, and dedication. A hush fell. Eloran inhaled, her eyes glistening. Nathan, she began softly, aware of every word being broadcast far and wide. From the moment I detected your ship on my scanners, I felt a spark of fate. You were the unknown that fascinated me. Through battles, through negotiations, I discovered not just a legendary ally, but a friend, a partner, and a love beyond my dreams. I vow to stand by you through every challenge and triumph for all the days to come. Cross's eyes shone as he spoke. Eloran, meeting you changed my life. We Terrans always looked outward, but we never imagined finding someone who could see past our warlike legend to our heart. You've shown me what it means to trust again. I vow to protect you, respect you, and build a future with you. A future where our peoples stand side by side, unstoppable. A ripple of emotion spread through the hall. Counselor Sarrell and Admiral Townsend joined hands over theirs. In a united voice, they pronounced the binding words of the ceremony. By the authority of the United Defense Pact, we affirm this union. May your bond inspire peace across the stars. A rising tide of applause and cheers erupted from every corner. Tears glistened on many faces, including Commander Thalron, who tried to mask his emotion behind a stiff salute. Eloran and Cross sealed their vows with a kiss, brief but potent, a silent promise that the synergy they represented would define a new chapter in galactic history. When they finally turned to face the audience, the room exploded in celebration. Floating floral petals drifted from overhead. Music soared, and well-wishers pressed in to offer embraces or handshakes. The cameras captured every angle, broadcasting the spectacle to distant worlds. At that instant, in the glow of acceptance, Eloran felt an unshakable sense of hope and gratitude. She glanced at Cross, who met her gaze with equal warmth. This was only the beginning. They had planets to protect, frontiers to explore, and old wounds to heal across the galaxy. But together they had shown that myths could become reality, that mistrust could yield to harmony, and that love could transcend the chasms of species and centuries. Hand in hand, they stepped off the dais, stepping boldly into a future that they and everyone in the hall would forever remember as the day a legend came home to the stars. Looking back on everything, those first trembling radar scans, the desperate battles in lonely star fields, and the improbable partnership that grew into a profound bond, I can't help but feel awed by how far this journey has taken us. What began with a single act of trust and cooperation blossomed into an alliance spanning worlds, proving that differences in culture or origin need not stand in the way of unity. Through adventure, conflict, and triumph, Ellerin and Cross showed that hope can eclipse any frontier when guided by love and mutual respect. I hope you've enjoyed following this epic as much as I have, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share your comments and ideas below so we can continue the conversation. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories filled with daring heroes, spectacular worlds, and the limitless possibilities waiting just beyond the stars.